Hey guys, welcome to today's YouTube video, and today we're going to be going over the Smith-Morra Gambit. One of the most fun gambits in my opinion. It's also very reputable. It's not exactly refuted, although black can equalize with perfect play. Yeah, we're just going to get right into the theory. I'm going to show you three lines. Two are like pure Morra, and then the third one's against the Alapin, which is the most common, just declination of the gambit. So yeah, this is against the Sicilian defense, by the way. And after c5, you want to play d4, sacrificing on d4. Don't take back with the queen, then you're like in reverse is Scandinavian, and I do not recommend the Scandinavian in the first place, so don't do that. The move is c3 here, and after d takes c3, you take back on c3 with the knight, and you'll notice now that the c and d files are both open. And essentially what you're going to do next is develop your pieces very quickly and get castled, and then you start attacking. But not a moment beforehand, because you will get in trouble. So the first is called the, I kind of forget the name of the, it's called the Paulson formation, but it has a different name that I can't remember right now. Anyways. Yeah, essentially, black just tries to develop kind of meekly, kind of just try to play solid and defend the extra pawn that they have. But we're not about that. We're going to play aggressively with bishop to g5, pinning the knight right now. And actually, we are threatening, I believe, knight d5. For example, let's waste a move. How do I waste a move here? I don't know, let's go here. Knight here is an advantage for white, because if you you take with a pawn and you're threatening to go d6 and coming with rook e1 as well. It's just a very nice position for white here, and you always have to be kind of looking out for these sacrifices on d5 in the Morra, because oftentimes they actually do work out and get you a significant advantage. But after f6, instead of wasting a move, which is logical, you play bishop back to e3, since the d4 square is often a weakness in the Smith-Morra, and you often want your bishop on e3 to defend that square. Yeah, after knight to g6, just developing the knight to a better square, we want to play bishop back to b3, and the reason is we're going to bring our rook to c1, and we just want the rook to have one move closer to having an open file. But after b5, one of the main ideas in the Morra for black, we're actually just going to full on send it and play knight to d5, and the idea of this is quite simple. Essentially, if black does nothing, we literally just play rook c1 and kind of just ignore it and say this knight is just awesome on the d5 square, and if black ever takes, then we take back with the e-pawn, and essentially afterwards we play d6, cutting through the king side, inhibiting this bishop's development square on e7, and we're just absolutely crushing because black can't castle, they can't develop their pieces, and they're just kind of stuck. So after knight to d5 here, we take back with the e-pawn, as I just said. You'll notice that it's attacking this. But after knight to e5, the only one that keeps relative even game as black, we just want to play d6 again, stopping the development of the black bishop, cutting through the king side, stopping black from ever castling. And yeah, that's the end of the variation there, because at this point you should be able to play chess on your own. You kind of just have a position where black can't castle, they have a hard time developing. You need to play very actively, for example with rook e1 and rook to c1, get your rooks on the open files, put pressure on the king, and yeah, you can even line up an attack here with your queen and go for mate. Maybe, for example, if rook there, you can already play, wait, what? Bishop b7? Oh, this isn't mate because they're knights. My bad, okay. But that's an idea. But that's still an idea, okay? Just remember, this is still an idea. Maybe just look out for some bishop to b7, since this knight is defending the mate square. But on to the next variation, which the main idea is just chase the queen around. When in doubt, and if you have the power to do so, just attack the queen, and it will generally be a good idea in the Morra. But here, this is just the regular setup for the Morra, by the way. Essentially, you want to put your queen to e2 and your rook onto d1, simply lining up with the queen, which is a very common motif in this opening. And after queen to c7, to get off the d file in the line side of the rook, we want to play bishop to f4, lining up with the queen again, and black's move is knight f6, and we play rook a to c1, lining up the other rook with the queen for some technical ideas later on. And after castles, we want to play bishop b3. Again, this is also a common idea, moving the bishop back to make opening up the file one move closer for the rook. And the top move here is queen to b8 for black, but I want to showcase what would happen if black doesn't really know what to do. And I play like rook b8, for example, to try and play b5. Essentially, we want to push the e pawn. After d takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop takes. First of all, we just are winning a full exchange. Actually, no, not even an exchange. We're winning a full rook. So yeah, you can just get a very quick advantage in these lines, and oftentimes it's just very hard to defend as black. The queen is always going to be like under attack, and if they somehow do find the top move of queen to b8, then it's still fine. We go knight to a4 and try to get into b6, again putting pressure on the bishops, making it hard for the bishop to develop to d7. And if they do develop, we just take it, and we have the bishop pair, which is good. Nice positional advantage. Also, endgames aren't actually bad in the Morra. Even though you are down a pawn, oftentimes they're a draw at worst. So don't be afraid to trade down. But again, it is a gambit. Try and play aggressively. Don't just trade because you can. Yeah. The next variation is the Alapin, which is a very common way to decline the Smith-Morra. And essentially, instead of taking on c3, they play knight to f6, and you want to push and force the knight to move again, and then you want to play knight out because you'll notice that this pin is pawned to the knight. So if they take, there's a free knight. So for knight c6, you do take, and then after d6, the most common response, knight back to b6, and then you play bishop b5. It may look like a little bit of a waste of a move, but you're removing the knight from the center of the board, which is generally good. And essentially what you're going to do here is you're going to get the bishop pair, but you are going to play an IQP position, isolated queen pawn. And you're going to castle, try and get development. You're going to play knight to c3. You want to try and control the square in front of the pawn, even though it's kind of hard here since, black has a little bit of an easy way to pile up pressure on the pawn. But you can also defend it pretty easily with bishop to e3, and you can always take this knight if you want to relieve some pressure on the pawn, and nothing's really ever going to take since it's defended by a bishop and the queen and the rook are attacking it. Yeah, IQP positions are a little bit hard to play, but if you want to have a bit of a different way of playing this, I've played this variation a bit over the board. I think it's more in the spirit of the Smith-Morra, but essentially instead of playing knight to f3, you take immediately, and if they play d6, thinking that after you take they're supposed to play d6, you play bishop d4, knight b6, and here I think I made a novelty like over the board one time. I don't think this has been played before, I'm not sure, but I've played this over the board and I haven't studied it before at all. And I've won every single game in this line, every single game over the board. Essentially, you just want to play e6 here, and the idea is after knight takes, you can just take back with check, and you can also throw in a in-between move, pawn takes f7, removing the rights to castle for black. Let me check. Apparently, this position has been reached before by a couple masters. But obviously it's not popular. The last time it was played was 2001. So, okay, it has been played before, but yeah, here's the idea. After knight takes e4, you give a check. Knight blocks is like the only move to hold an advantage for black. Well, hold equality, I should say. It's like a very tiny advantage. If bishop to d7, that's one of the moves. You literally just take. So there's not really a different move here. They can only go here. And you want to throw in this in-between move to remove the castling rights for black and kind of make it a nice dynamic game for the rest of the game. After king takes, you obviously take back the knight. And I think someone did come prepared one time with d5, but I think d5 is a little hard to spot sometimes. More commonly, I faced e6 or simply king back to b8. Essentially here, you just want to put your knight out to f3 and castle. And if they play d5, you want to play queen back d3 and put your knight on e2. Put your knight on e2 if they play d5. And it's simply to go to f4 instead of one of these squares. I know it may look a little bit weird, but the knight to e2 after d5 has been rewarding in these positions for me. It's just safer, I think, to play this way. You can put your knight out on c3 if they give a check, or even play bishop e2 and get castled and start harassing the king. Yeah, but the main idea of the way this is played is just attack the king, try to make some tactical chances for yourself to win material and just get a nice attack. This opening has helped me a lot, and I think it's very fun to play, even though it's slightly dubious. Yeah, anyways, I can't really explain everything again in the Morra. There's only so much I can show in one video. Remember to fill in the gaps on your own. There's an amazing book by Mark Esserman called Mayhem in the Morra. He's like the main advocate of the Smith-Morra, and it's for a reason. He's an amazing Smith-Morra player. So if you want a book, get Mayhem in the Morra. It's literally an entire book dedicated to the Smith-Morra. Other than that, fill in the gaps on your own, look up videos on your own, study with the engine on your own. Yeah, but play games of the Morra. The main thing is just to get experience in the opening. Good luck in your games. I hope you get some nice attacks. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. But as always, I'll see you tomorrow.